The Centre for Development and Enterprise has criticised the ANC's jobs promise in its election manifesto. The ruling party is pledging 3.5 million work opportunities if it remains in power. But the Centre for Development and Enterprise says this is the paltry equivalent of 300,000 low-wage jobs over 5 years. To unpack it for us further, I'm joined now via Zoom by the Executive Director of the CDE, Anne Bernstein. And good afternoon. Welcome to today, and thank you very much for your time. I mean, you've written this comment from a CDE perspective, just taking literally the unpacking or the ANC's promise of 3.5 million jobs that's in the election manifesto to say it actually isn't.
Well, I think there's a big difference, Dan, when you look at work opportunities versus jobs. So work opportunities are what the government calls its public works programs. These are temporary jobs. They're often part-time, sometimes not. These are paid for by public money, and these are not like you or me getting a job at the local spaza shop, which continues for a period of time. These are short-term jobs, so generally 4 months or so, very different from getting a job in the private sector. And if you add this all up and work it out, they're talking about 3.5 million job opportunities, but this is effectively the equivalent of, give it 300,000 jobs over 5 years. Now, in the context of South Africa's unbelievable unemployment, about 11.7 million people who would like to work, who cannot find a job today, this is a totally inadequate response, and I was stunned to read it in the ANC manifesto.
You're stunned by the fact that the work opportunities that are being promised are really of a temporary nature.
Well, if you think about it, the work opportunities are temporary, and so the best guesstimate is 2.8 work opportunities equals the equivalent of 1 year of work. So you've got to, at the end of a work opportunity, you have to apply again or find another work opportunity. This is not a real job. Most of the time, you don't learn anything on these jobs, but the numbers are stunning. It's the equivalent of very few real jobs over 5 years. And this is the centerpiece of what's being offered to the electorate.
And how does this compare with the real need? I mean, this economy needs to create a lot of jobs, but it is not growing at a rate that it can.
Well, Dan, think of it this way. Last year, some 700,000 people wrote matric. So effectively, the ANC's election promise is that 300,000 of them could get a job in the next 5 years. So that's less than half of those people. But anybody who matriculates this year and for the next 4 years, there are no jobs for them.
Yeah.
So this is totally inadequate, and that's why we're saying this is the wrong way to think about it. Now, the manifesto does mention economic growth and that there are some economic roadblocks that the ANC as ruling party will work on. But there's no sense of urgency. There's no sense that this is catastrophic for millions and millions of people and their families and their communities, and that we have to make this the #1 priority, getting faster growth and much more job-rich growth. It's almost like it's business as usual. And you start to think, I wonder if they've given up. They don't know what to do.
I was about to say that, or they don't know really what to do to create sustainable jobs.
Exactly. That's the real, you read it and you think, what is going on here? This is incredibly disappointing. So what we've got to do is we have to think very hard about the election offers that parties are making. And on the jobs front, this is incredibly worrying for the country. And we have to turn away from putting all our hope in publicly funded short-term jobs. We have to take the hard decisions required to get us much faster economic growth. And that starts at the top. We have to get much more competent, dedicated people in the cabinet, and then the teams around them. And we have to stop talking so much and actually fix the things that are going wrong in the country, from the ports to the roads to rail, of course to energy, and to many other things. Crime is a big factor holding back growth. So there's lots to do, and I didn't see any sense of recognition of the terrible crisis South Africa's in this particular manifesto of the ruling party.
So basically, just to conclude, and you are pointing out that this promise in the ANC's election manifesto of 3.5 million work opportunities, to use the language of the manifesto, is actually equal to a paltry 300,000 low-wage paying jobs over the next 5 years. So when you see 3.5 million work opportunities, you think 300,000 low-paid jobs, low-wage paid jobs over the next 5 years.
Yes, we shouldn't be fooled by the language. Work opportunities are not jobs as you and I would understand them, and that so many people desperately need.
Thank you very much.
That's the challenge.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Anne Bernstein, the Executive Director of the Center for Development and Enterprise. 3.5 million work opportunities. That's what the ANC manifesto promises. It's not a job. A work opportunity is definitely not a job from that explanation. Now, we'd like to get your view